Hello everyone. We have entered into the 15th online lecture of the course Engineering Thermodynamics. In the previous lecture, I have first discussed about the physical significance of the entropy, the concept of third law of thermodynamics, and after that I have introduced the concept of vapor power cycles. And in vapor power cycles, first we have started with the Carnot cycle, and then we found that the Carnot cycle is feasible, but it has certain practical limitations, due to which we have modified certain things in our Carnot cycle, and we have come up with a practical cycle which is referred to as Rankine cycle and is mostly used in the steam or nuclear power plants. Okay, so over here I have included the TS diagram of Rankine cycle. So along the ordinate we are having temperature axis, and along the abscissa we are having entropy axis, and this is our liquid vapor dome. And over this liquid vapor dome I have first drawn the two pressure lines. One is having pressure pH, some high pressure, and another pressure line which is having pressure PL. Now, after incorporating the limitations or avoiding the limitations of the Carnot cycle, whatever the new processes we have got, these I have plotted on this TS diagram. So, in case of Rankine cycle, now we are having pure saturated liquid state at the entrance of the pump, and then inside the pump process number 1 to 2 is nothing but a isentropic compression process if we consider under the ideal reversible conditions. And then we are having the state number 2 at the exit of this isentropic compression process. And then what we are doing, the process number 2 to 3 is nothing but it is a heat addition process, and this process is actually happening at the constant pressure, so we will be calling it as constant pressure heat addition or isobaric heat addition. Okay, and over here we had seen in our previous lecture that we are nothing but overheating our steam, and the reason for overheating was that if what we want to do, we want to increase the quality of the steam at the exit of the turbine. Okay, so that's why we have done certain amount of overheating till this state number 3, and then the process 3 to 4 has happened inside a turbine where we are having the expansion of the steam, and this expansion of the steam has resulted in some net work output. Okay, so process number 3 to 4 is nothing but our isentropic expansion process. Okay, and after that what we are having, because now we want to operate the entire process or this entire combination of the processes inside a cycle. So in order to complete the cycle, we have to once again reach to the initial point. Okay, so for going to the initial point, what we are doing, we are rejecting the some amount of heat at pressure PL, and because of the removal of the heat, what is happening, this point number 4 is actually getting converted into point number 1. Okay, so where we are having saturated liquid state, and this is completing our entire cycle. Now this is a heat rejection process from 4 to 1, and this is happening at constant pressure, so that's why I have written over here isobaric heat rejection process. Okay, now if you see all this in this entire cycle, what is actually happening during this process, we are adding certain amount of heat. Say I am calling it as Qi, amount of heat added. Then in the process 3 to 4 we are getting some work output out of it, so say I am calling it as Wt, turbine work, because we are having over here the mechanical component as nothing but a turbine. Then In process 4 to 1, we are rejecting certain amount of heat. So let me write it as QE as the amount of heat which we have rejected. And from in process 1 to 2, what we are doing, we are adding certain amount of work to the pump. So let me call it as WP as nothing but our pump work. Okay. Now, if you see, this entire thing is nothing but a cycle. Okay, so if you see for the entire cycle, if we consider this entire cycle as our thermodynamic system, what we will be finding that there is no interaction of external mass transfer which is associated across the boundaries of the system. Okay, so this entire cycle we can analyze as a control mass system. However, if we have to analyze the individual component of this cycle, means for example, in this 2 to 3 process, we are having nothing but a boiler where we are adding certain amount of heat in order to convert liquid into vapor. Okay, so this heat addition process is happening nothing but inside a device which is known as heat exchanger, and this type of heat exchanger where liquid is getting converted into vapor is particularly known as a steam generator or a boiler. Okay, so over here this is nothing but a boiler, and over here 3 to 4 process is nothing but a turbine. And in the process number 4 to 1, what we are doing, once again we are rejecting certain amount of heat, and this rejection of the heat is taking place inside a device which is known as a heat exchanger. And in this particular type of heat exchanger, what is happening, if you see near to point number 4, you will be finding that you are having majority of the amount of vapor inside within your working medium. Okay, and when the heat is rejected, this is being converted into liquid. So a heat exchanging device where vapor gets converted into liquid at constant pressure, this type of device is something known as a condenser. Okay, so in process number 4 to 1, we are having a device heat exchanger. This device in general term we are calling it as a heat exchanger. However, in specific terms it is nothing but a condenser type heat exchanger. And then from 1 to 2, already it is clear to you all that it is nothing but a pump. Also we know that this, when this cycle is operating, it is operating in a continuous manner. It means continuously certain amount of working medium is being added to the boiler and certain amount of medium is coming out of the boiler. Okay, so this process is also continuous inside the turbine, and similarly it is applicable for condenser and pump. Okay, so now if you consider your individual component, either 1 to 2 pump or boiler or turbine or your condenser, you will be finding that individually through each and every component certain amount of fluid is being added and certain amount of fluid is actually going out of that system. Okay, so individually all these individual processes are actually happening inside the components, which are nothing but examples of steady state systems. Okay, so let us now try to analyze our individual processes. So let us first consider the process number 2 to 3. So process number 2 to 3 is nothing but a, as I have told you, isobaric heat addition process, and this process is happening inside a device which is nothing but a heat exchanger, and this type of heat exchanger we are particularly calling it as a boiler. And in this boiler certain amount of working fluid is actually being added at the inlet. So say we are having addition of certain amount of mass at the inlet, say m dot I, and certain amount of mass is actually leaving this boiler. And inside this boiler particularly what we are doing, we are supplying certain amount of heat addition which I have represented with Qi. Okay, so as now we have to operate the system in a cyclic manner, and what we are doing, whatever the mass is entering from one component, same is actually passing through the other components. So because of that, what we have to do, we have to operate in an steady manner. So if the process inside this one is happening in a steady manner, what will be happening? M dot I will be equal to M dot E, and that will be nothing but equal to, say, M dot S, mass flow rate of our working medium. And we already know from our steady state energy equation, or I can say that the first law of thermodynamics for open system, particularly when it is applied for this type of steady state devices, we already know that Q plus mass flow rate of working substance into HI plus VI square by 2 plus GZI is nothing but equal to W plus M dot into HE plus VE square divided by 2 plus G into Z2. Okay, so this is something which we have studied in our earlier lectures. Now for this process number 2 to 3, W is nothing but equal to 0. Okay, and what we are having now, if we consider that the changes in the potential and kinetic energy at the inlet and outlet of the streams is negligible, in that case what will be happening? We will be finding that whatever this Qi amount of heat we are adding, this is nothing but equal to M dot into HE minus HI. Okay, now if you see your previous diagram, TS diagram, in the TS diagram we have represented the terminal points with the help of numbers, and across the boiler we are having point number 2 and point number 3. So I can simply write this as nothing but equal to M dot into H3 minus H2. Okay, so this is nothing but our steady state energy equation is telling that whatever the amount of heat we are adding, that is nothing but equal to mass flow rate of the working medium into difference of enthalpies across the inlet and the outgoing stream. Okay, so let us take now the next process. So next process is nothing but happening inside a turbine. This is process number 3 to 4. So this process, what I can do, I can write down, if I write the steady state energy equation, that will be nothing but Q plus M dot into what is the enthalpy at the inlet? H3. And now let me take this assumption, already include this assumption that changes in potential and kinetic energies are negligible. So that's why what will be happening, this will be equal to nothing but W plus M dot into H4. Okay, and now one thing you have to remember over here, in this process what is happening, this W work is nothing but equal to minus WT. Why minus WT? Say WT is the work done by the turbine, and as the work is actually going out of the system, so that's why we are representing over here it with negative sign. And as the process is isentropic, or it is reversible adiabatic, rather than calling it isentropic, let me call it reversible adiabatic. So as the process is adiabatic, Q will be equal to 0. So what we will be finding ultimately, that WT, okay, will be coming out to be nothing but M dot into H4 minus H3. Okay, and as H4, so this is also clear from this diagram, obviously the enthalpy of point number 4 will be less in comparison to the enthalpy of the point number 3. Okay, so as I have already taken the work convention into consideration, so because of that, what will be happening automatically, because value of H4 is less than the value of H3, so what we are getting, we are getting the magnitude of W2 as nothing but negative, and we already know that negative work done is nothing, negative is nothing but work done by the system. Okay, so ultimately if we have to only write the magnitude in terms of magnitude, I can simply write as Wt is equal to m dot into H3 minus H4. Okay, so this is our work done inside a turbine. Okay, now what we have to do, next process is our process number 4 to 1, and 4 to 1 process is nothing but a heat reaction process at constant temperature, so or at constant pressure, and temperature is also constant during this process if we are operating within the liquid vapor dome only. So in this process, as I have already explained for process number 2 to 3, here also we will be finding that QE will be nothing but equal to m dot into H4 minus H1. And similarly, if we now write down the equation for process number 1 to 2, which is nothing but a isentropic compression, we will be finding that our pump work will be equal to nothing but m dot into H2 minus H1. Okay, so what I have done, these two things I have written directly over here. However, you can use the generalized form of steady state energy equation, and by taking the necessary assumptions, you can come up with these equations. Okay, now here let me highlight one very important point. You have seen majority of the times that in our subcooled state, majority of the time the value of the property is not known. Okay, so over here what we require the value of property which is nothing but our enthalpy, and in majority of the times you will be finding that subcooled property tables are not provided. Okay, now let me recall you to the very next definition of work done in an open system, as pump is an open system, and we know that work done in an open system is nothing but minus integral of VdP. Okay, so this is applicable when we are neglecting the changes in kinetic energy, changes in potential energy, and when we are considering that our process is reversible. It means there is no entropy generation. Okay, so for such type of open processes, we have already seen that work done is nothing but integration of minus VdP, and this integration, because now we are talking about process number 1 to 2, so this integration should be from point number 1 to point number 2. Now if you check your TS diagram, you will be finding that at point number 1 your substance is nothing but at liquid state. Okay, and we know that at the liquid state our substances are nothing but of incompressible nature. So if the substances are of incompressible nature, it means their density or specific volume will be remaining unaltered. Rather, if we are adding certain amount of energy on these substances to compress these, their pressure will be increasing instead of changes in their specific volume or the density. Okay, so as at our inlet point, what we are doing, we are supplying the liquid. So that's why what I can do in this integration, I can consider that this specific volume, whatever we are having over here in the integration VdP, this is nothing but our constant. Why I am considering it constant? Because at the inlet of the pump, we are having a liquid substance, and till starting from the inlet to point number 2, which is the outlet, during the entire phase our state of the substance is nothing but a pure liquid, whether it is saturated or subcooled, but it is a liquid state. And as liquid is an incompressible substance, so because of that what we can do, we can consider that specific volume of the liquid, there may be very slight changes, but these changes will be actually negligible. So because of that, what I can do, I can take this specific volume out of the integration and our pump work will be becoming nothing but minus specific volume corresponding to point number 1, because we can easily determine the specific volume at point number 1 as it is a saturation state. So we can simply find out the value from the saturation table and it will be coming out to be integration of dP from point number 1 to point number 2, and ultimately we will be finding minus specific volume of 1 into P2 minus P1. Okay, and as already the operating pressures of the cycles will be known, so this is also a known parameter, this is also known, and specific volume we can easily determine from our saturation tables, so we can obtain the value of this work done. Okay, once we have found the value of work done, if we substitute this value over here from this point to this point, if we substitute this value over here, enthalpy at point number 1 is already known from the saturation table, we can find out the value of enthalpy at point H2. Okay, so though this part was not that much important over here to highlight in this lecture, but why I have included over here, because majority of the times when you will be solving the numerical problems on Rankine cycle, you will be finding that it is difficult to obtain the value of enthalpy H2, because majority of the times you will be finding that in compressed state or subcooled state the property tables are not given. Okay, so this is an alternate way to find out the value of enthalpy corresponding to point number 2 when we are doing the numerical problems. Okay, so now let us proceed our discussion. So till this point what we have done, we have actually identified the different heat and work interactions associated with individual components of the cycle in terms of mass flow rate of the working medium and the corresponding enthalpy values. Okay, so now let us define the efficiency of the cycle. We know already that efficiency of the cycle is nothing but a net work output divided by the amount of heat supplied. So net work output is nothing but our turbine work minus pump work divided by Qi. Okay, so what we will be finding, that turbine work is nothing but equal to m dot into H3 minus H4 minus of pump work is m dot into H2 minus H1 divided by, we will be finding m dot into H1 minus H2 as the efficiency of our cycle. Okay, now sorry, this point is not H1 minus H2, rather it should be H3 minus H2, because in our heat addition process we are having the terminal points as point number 2 and point number 3. Okay, so this is nothing but our efficiency of the Rankine cycle. Okay, now let me introduce one very important concept which is known as the mean temperature of heat addition. Okay, so this is a very important concept and this will be used many times in our analysis to determine whether by doing certain modifications in cycle, whether the efficiency of the cycle is increasing or decreasing. Okay, so what I will be doing now, let me first draw a TS diagram, and over this TS diagram let me first show the heat addition process. So this is our heat addition process which is happening from point number 2 to point number 3. So it means that in this diagram, now if I have to find out the amount of heat added, that will be nothing but equal to area under this line between the terminal points 2 and 3. So this our entire area will be nothing but whatever the amount we have added. Okay, now if you see, this heat addition process has taken place at constant pressure. However, if you try to see during this zone over here, the temperature of the system has increased. Then for the phase change region within the liquid vapor dome, this has remained constant, and once again in the superheated zone, the temperature has actually increased. Okay. So if you try to see in our actual system what is happening, the temperature during the entire operation is not actually constant. Okay, so it means we cannot determine that, we cannot say or specify a certain value of temperature at which this heat transfer is taking place. Okay, so what we can do now, if say somehow we have to relate this to a mean temperature of heat addition. So what we can do, we can once again draw a TS cycle, okay, and say during this process, when we have taken this area under the curve, this magnitude of this area under the curve say is equal to Q from 2 to 3. This is nothing but our magnitude of heat addition. Now what we can do, we can take a TS diagram, and in this TS diagram we can now fix our terminal points based on the value of the entropy. So what we can do, based on the value of the entropy, say corresponding to point number 2, I am having this value of entropy S2, and over here the value of entropy is say S3. So what I will be doing, whatever the values of the entropy I have obtained over here, these values of entropy I will be fixing. So I will be fixing first point number 2 and point number 3. So these 2 points I have fixed over here, and now what I will be doing, if I take just vertical lines from these 2 points, now what I will do, I will draw a line of temperature. So a line which will be having a constant value of temperature, and that line will be drawn in such a fashion so that whatever the area we were having under this 2-3 line, under the 2 to 3 line, under the constant pressure conditions, same area we are getting over here under this line when it is drawn, considering the constant temperature throughout the entire process. Okay, so over here now if you see, the value of temperature is constant. So let us call the value of this temperature as nothing but our T mean. Okay, or I can simply call it as Tm. Instead of writing T entirely as a mean, I am using the symbol Tm for this one. Okay, so if I now represent this cycle, instead of representing the constant pressure line, if I can estimate an average value of the temperature which is giving us the same inlet and outlet terminal points. However, what we have done, we have taken the value of this temperature in such a fashion so that the area under this line is nothing but identical to that of the amount of heat addition whatever we are having in our actual process. Okay, so what we can write, that if mathematically we have to calculate, so I can simply say that my amount of heat transfer from point 2 to 3 is nothing but equal to the Tm into S3 minus S2. Okay, so now over here if you see, in this cycle, whatever the new cycle I have, whatever the new process I have drawn, by considering the same terminal points and a constant temperature line which is resulting in same amount of heat transfer as obtained in case of our actual cycle, we will be finding that our heat addition will be becoming identical to that of the isothermal heat addition. Okay, so whatever the value of temperature we have got over here, this value is something which is known as the mean temperature of heat addition. Now, why I have discussed this concept and what is its utility, let us try to see. So we already know that efficiency of a Carnot cycle is nothing but equal to 1 minus T2 divided by T1, where T2 is nothing but temperature at which heat is rejected and T1 is nothing but temperature at which heat is added. So now what we can do, if we have defined, so if you go to your actual Rankine cycle, you will be finding that majority of the time, or in practical scenario, if we consider, always we will be having the situation when condenser is operating in between the liquid vapor dome. Okay, so if the condenser is operating between the liquid vapor dome, obviously the temperature during the heat rejection process will always remain constant. Okay, so always we will be finding that the temperature of heat rejection is actually constant. However, the temperature of heat addition was continuously was varying at each and every at certain points within the process. So what we have done, after including the concept of mean temperature of heat addition, now we have got the constant value of temperature for heat addition point also. Okay, so that's why what I can do, I can also write the efficiency of Rankine cycle as nothing but 1 minus T2 divided by Tm, where Tm is nothing but your mean temperature of heat addition. Okay, so this mean temperature of heat addition is nothing but a way to compare the efficiency of a Rankine cycle in accordance to that of a Carnot cycle. Okay, because this process is nothing but providing the replacement to our actual process of heat addition in terms of the isothermal conditions. So this will not be used practically. However, the main purpose of studying this mean temperature of heat addition is only to establish the effect of different parameters on the efficiency of the Rankine cycle. Okay. So now, as I have already told you, that efficiency of the Rankine cycle is a function of its parameters, whatever we are having, for example, pressure, temperatures. So let us try to see individually each and every parameter, how it affects the efficiency. Okay, so first let us study the effect of pressure and temperature of heat rejection. Okay, so what we will be now doing, we will be studying the effect of pressure and temperature of heat rejection process on the efficiency of the cycle. Okay, so what we are having, this is our, say, original cycle. I am drawing with the help of blue colored lines. So say this is our original cycle, which I have drawn with the help of blue colored lines. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now let us consider that we are decreasing the pressure of heat rejection or temperature of heat rejection. So because both in between the liquid vapor dome, both the constant pressure line and constant temperature lines will be coinciding. So if we are decreasing one, another will be decreasing automatically. Okay, so now what we have done, say first this pressure was P4. Now what I have done, I have taken certain another pressure line which is having the value of pressure P4 dash, and this P4 dash is nothing but less than P4. So what will be happening now, our new cycle, instead of coming till point number 4, it will be going to which point? Say this point is nothing but our point number 4 dash, and then from 4 dash to we have to go to point number, say, 1 dash, and then from 1 dash we have to once again pump till high pressure. Say this point is nothing but our point number 2 dash. Okay, so whatever I have drawn over here with the help of green colored lines, this is nothing but our new cycle now, whatever the addition I have done. So our new cycle is nothing but 1 dash, 2 dash, 3, 4 dash, and then 1 dash. So this is our new cycle. So if you compare with the reference cycle, what are the changes? We already know that area under TS diagram is equal to heat. So area under process number 2 to 3 will be the heat added. Area under process number 4 to 1 will be nothing but heat rejected. So it means whatever the area will be enclosed by these two processes, that will be nothing but our equivalent to net heat transfer. And for a cyclic process, the net heat transfer is equal to amount of net work transfer. So that's why whatever the enclosed area we are having inside this cycle, that is nothing but equivalent to our amount of work done. Okay, so once I have decreased the pressure of heat rejection, or in other words I can also say the temperature of heat rejection. By doing so, what happened, we have seen that certain amount of area has increased within the cycle. Okay, so this much amount of area has actually increased. So it means we have got some increment in our net amount of work done, whatever we are receiving from the cycle. At the same point of time, if you try to see in this zone what has happened, earlier your process of heat addition was taking place only up to this line. So only up to this point you were having the heat addition. Now heat addition has reached up to this point. So it means certain amount of whatever I am doing, this black colored hatching, so this amount of area has actually increased for heat input also. Okay, so it means when you have decreased the pressure, there is increase in net work done. At the same point of time, there is certain amount of increment in the heat addition. And if you see, earlier your heat rejection was happening only up to this point. Now heat rejection is up to this point. So it means amount of heat rejection QE has also increased over here. Okay, now we already know that our efficiency is nothing but equal to, what is the formulation of efficiency, is nothing but equal to W net divided by QI. So if you see, your W net has increased, at the same point of time your QI has also actually increased, but the amount of area which has increased within the entire cycle, it means the amount of work done, increase of work done is more in comparison to increase in the amount of heat input. So that's why what is happening, the amount of increase in work done is actually more in comparison to the increase in the heat addition. So that's why what will be happening, overall the efficiency of the cycle will be increasing if we are decreasing the pressure or temperature of heat addition. But one negative point also we have found over here. Earlier what was happening, the exit was happening at point number 4. Now your exit has happened at point number 4 dash, and the quality of the point number 4 dash is less in comparison to quality of point number 4. So that's why one negative effect we have seen, that when we are decreasing the pressure or the temperature of the working medium during the heat rejection process, the quality of the steam at the exit of the turbine is actually also decreasing. Okay, so that decreasing quality is having adverse effect on the efficiency of the turbine, as well as more prominent effect on the erosion of the turbine surface. So that's why what we have to do, we cannot go below the beyond the certain value of quality limit, which I have already specified in the previous lecture, that quality is limited by 0.88. And also, as I have told you, that in this process what we are doing, we are rejecting the heat. Okay, so when we reject the heat, in majority of heat rejection cases, we add the heat to our surroundings. Okay, so when the heat is being added to the surroundings, obviously we have to maintain the temperature of our system more than the temperature of the surroundings in order to allow the spontaneous heat transfer process. So that's why this minimum value of the condenser temperature or condenser pressure is also limited by the conditions of the surroundings at which the heat is rejected. Okay, so over here what we have done, we have first established the effect of pressure and temperature of heat rejection process, where we found that this leads to increase in network output, increase in heat addition and increase in heat rejection. However, the amount of increase in network output is more prominent in comparison to the amount of increase in heat input. So that's why ultimately the efficiency of the cycle increases. However, the quality at the exit of turbines decreases, and this ultimately is not good for the operations of the turbine. And at the same point of time, the minimum value of this temperature or pressure is actually limited by the temperature of the surroundings where heat has to be rejected. Okay, so this is the first thing that we have included or studied, the effect of parameters on the efficiency. Now let us consider another parameter. So another parameter can be pressure of heat addition. Okay, so if we are now studying the effect of pressure of heat addition, so let us consider once again conventional cycle. Say this is our Rankine cycle operating between the terminal points 1, 2, 3 and point number 4, and let us consider that this pressure is nothing but equal to P3, a constant pressure line. Now what we are doing over here in this cycle, say we have increased our pressure from P3 to some point P3 dash. So now we have increased the pressure from point number 3 to point number P3 dash, and over here what we are having, P3 dash is actually greater in comparison to pressure number P3. Okay, so what will be happening when we will be increasing the pressure? Because of that, now our this process inside the pump will be extending till point 2 dash instead of point number 2, and we will be having the heat addition process starting from point number 2 dash. One important point we have to consider over here, that when we are adding this amount of heat, during that time what will be happening, particularly in the superheated region, the temperature of the working medium will be actually increasing. Okay, so if we keep on adding the heat, temperature may go up to very large value. Say if I want to maintain the quality of the steam till point number 4 only, so I have to add the heat till this point. If I am adding the heat till this point, let me call this point as nothing but point number 3 double dash. Okay, so what has happened, when we have increased the pressure from from P3 to P3 dash, and we have added the heat in such a fashion so that the quality of the steam at the exit of turbine is being maintained at point number 3. Because of that, our heat addition we have to do in such a fashion so that our uh, steam condition at the outlet of the boiler is nothing but corresponding to point number 3 dash. Okay, so now if you compare, you will be finding that the temperature of point number 3 double dash is very large in comparison to the point number 3 which we have used in our conventional cycle. Okay, so if this value of temperature is very high, because of that what will be happening, though we will be able to maintain the quality, and at the same point of time we are having significant increase in the amount of work done, because area enclosed by this entire cycle has increased, though we found that the amount of heat transfer has also increased, but as the net work output is also increasing, so because of that what will be happening, the efficiency of the cycle will be increasing. But what has happened, this temperature has become so high that it may go beyond the metallurgical limits of the materials which has been used to fabricate the boiler. Okay, so that's why what will be happening, when we are adding the heat at high temperature, we cannot go up to very large values of the temperature. Okay, so in that case what we have to do, we have to limit our maximum temperature at the inlet of turbine. Okay, so this is very important point, that we cannot add heat to any given value of temperature. So what we have to do, so if we are doing so, we found that there is a significant increase in the efficiency, and at the same point of time we were able to maintain the quality of the steam also at the exit of the turbine, but the value of temperature whatever we have got, that is very large in comparison to the temperature which we were using in our actual cycle. Okay, so if we have to apply the cycle for the practical scenarios, what we have to do, the maximum temperature at the inlet of turbine has to be limited by the metallurgical limits of the materials which are used for fabricating the boiler tubes as well as the turbine blades. Okay, so it means now we are having certain limit for the maximum value of temperature. Now let us consider that maximum limit for the value of temperature is nothing but identical to that of T3. Say this T3 is nothing but coming from our metallurgical limits. So if T3 is coming from metallurgical limits, we cannot go beyond the value of temperature more than T3. Okay, so that's why what we have to do, when we are adding the heat at high pressure, instead of going to point number 3 dash, if we have to limit our maximum temperature to T3 only, we have to start the expansion process from point number 3 dash. Okay, so if we are starting the expansion process from point number 3 dash, in that case what is happening, you see this new point we will be getting, which is nothing but our point number 4 dash. Okay, now if you see overall the amount of work done has decreased, so this much amount of work done has actually decreased, but at the same point of time more amount of decrease has happened in amount of heat transfer also, whatever we are adding, and similarly the amount of heat rejection has also decreased. Okay, and moreover in this zone what we are having significant increase in the area enclosed by the cycle, which in turn will be leading to the significant increase in amount of work done. Okay, so that's why ultimately what we will be getting, ultimately we will be having the increase of efficiency. Okay, W net has decreased, at the same point of time Q input has also decreased, and Q whatever we are rejecting the amount of heat, that has also decreased. Okay, all these things has happened when we have limited the maximum temperature by the metallurgical limits of the materials. Okay, so because of that, uh, but sorry, I have wrongly mentioned a few things. So over here, the overall there may be increase or there may be decrease. That will be depending upon whether we are having this amount of area as more or this amount of area as more. So depending upon these two situations, we may have either increase or decrease in these individual values. Okay, but ultimately what we will be finding, ultimately if you try to see, earlier your heat addition process was happening from point number 2 to point number 3, and the temperature of point number 2 is less in comparison to the temperature of point number 2 dash, where now your heat addition process has started from point number 2 dash to point number 3 dash. So because of that, what we can conclude, we can conclude that though these factors whatever we are having over here, these may either increase or decrease depending upon the situation of the cycle. Okay, sorry, these Q inlet and W net we may increase or decrease. However, the value of heat rejection will always be decreasing. Okay, so ultimately what I am saying, that earlier the process of heat addition was happening from point number 2 to point number 3. Now the process of heat addition is happening from point number 2 dash to point number 3 dash. These two temperatures are same. However, the temperature within the liquid vapor dome has increased, and also the temperature at which stream is actually entering into the heat exchanger, that has also increased from point number T2 to point number T2 dash. So that's why ultimately when we have increased the pressure, after increasing the pressure, mean temperature of heat addition has actually increased, because of which what will be happening, efficiency of the cycle will be increasing. But at the same point of time, if we talk about the quality of the steam has actually decreased significantly. Okay, so over here what will be happening, efficiency will be increasing and quality at the exit of the turbine will be actually decreasing. Okay, so the increase in pressure of heat addition results in increase in efficiency of the cycle. However, at the same point of time, it leads to decrease in quality of the steam at the exit of the turbine. Okay, then third point, we are having effect of superheating. So what is the effect of superheating? Say this is our conventional cycle, which is taking place from 1 to 2 to 3, 4, and now say what we have done, we have increased the level of superheating. So we have to increase the level of superheating such that we are not going beyond the metallurgical limits. Say we have increased the superheating from point number 3 to point number 3 dash. So if we are increasing the superheating of the steam, in that case what will be happening, if you try to see over here, the net amount of heat input, heat rejection and net amount of work done is increasing. At the same point of time, earlier the heat addition process was happening from 2 to point number 3. Now it is happening from 2 to point number 3 dash, and temperature of 3 dash is more in comparison to temperature of 3. Ultimately, our mean temperature of heat addition will be actually increasing. If mean temperature of heat addition is increasing, our efficiency of the cycle will be increasing by increasing the superheating of the system. And at the same point of time, if you compare the quality at point number 4 dash and point number 4, you will be finding that quality of the point number 4 dash is more in comparison to the quality at point number 4. So that's why superheating always results in increase in efficiency of the cycle. At the same point of time, it also increases the quality at the exit of the turbine. Okay. Now I want to highlight one very important concept over here, which is something known as the supercritical Rankine cycle. Okay, so as I have already told you, while establishing the effect of pressure of heat addition, I have already told you that when we are increasing the pressure of heat addition, by increasing the pressure, our efficiency of the cycle is actually increasing. Okay. Now, what is supercritical cycle? We all know from our earlier lectures that this point at which both saturation liquid and saturation vapor line meets is something known as a critical point. And when we operate our boiler pressure below the critical pressure, that is something known as a subcritical cycle. However, if we operate our Rankine cycle in such a fashion so that the pressure of the cycle is more in comparison to the pressure of heat addition is more in comparison to the critical pressure, then we call our cycle as nothing but our supercritical Rankine cycle. Okay. So let me first draw over here a supercritical Rankine cycle. So let us consider TS axis. Over here, let us consider our liquid vapor dome, and let us consider this is our high pressure line. Okay, so this is PH, this is our low pressure line PL. Say this is our point number 1. So this point 1, then this is point number 2. Say this is our point number 3, and this is point number 4. So now in this cycle, if you see, our value of this pressure pH is nothing but more in comparison to that of the critical pressure. And what is the value of critical pressure? We all know critical pressure is nothing but equal to 22.06 megapascals. So if our pressure of heat addition is more in comparison to that of the critical value of the pressure, in that case what will be happening? We will be calling our Rankine cycle as nothing but our supercritical cycle, and any cycle which operates below the critical pressure, that is something which is known as a subcritical cycle. Now supercritical cycle is very important. Why? Because earlier, whatever the old thermal or nuclear power plants were there, all these were operated on the basis of subcritical cycles only. But due to the advancements in the materials in recent years, now people have started using the supercritical cycles under the practical conditions. And one advantage of supercritical cycles is that their efficiency is very high in comparison to the efficiency of the subcritical cycles. So the efficiency of a typical modern supercritical steam power plant is something around 40%. Okay, so this is when we are using a thermal power plant. Okay, and if we are using a supercritical nuclear power plant, for that efficiency is somewhere around close to 34%. So over here, as we already know that nuclear energy we can get at more faster rate in comparison to that of our thermal energy. Still, what I am writing over here, that the efficiency of a nuclear supercritical plant is less in comparison to that of efficiency of a thermal power plant. This is due to the reason because it's some of the parameters or the maximum pressure and temperature temperature conditions are limited due to the safety considerations. Okay, so that's why nuclear supercritical power plants are operated at slightly lower efficiency in comparison to that of the efficiency of operation for that of a coal-based thermal power plant, or say oil-based thermal power plants operating under the principle of Rankine cycle. Okay, so these cycles are particularly used in the modern power plants. Whatever the old power plants we are having available, these all operates under the subcritical conditions. Okay. So I'll stop at this point and then we'll continue with our further discussion on reheat and regenerative Rankine cycles in our next lecture.